7 True Grindr Dating App Horror Stories. Story 1. The Profile That Wasn't Real. What you're about to hear is something that happened to a guy we'll call Marcus. And trust me, after hearing what went down, you'll think twice before trusting anyone on dating apps. Marcus was a regular guy, 28 years old, worked in marketing, lived in a decent apartment in Portland. He wasn't some naive kid, he'd been on Grindr before. He knew the deal. You swipe, you chat, you meet up. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's awkward. That's just how it goes. But this one particular night in March, Marcus was bored. He'd just gotten out of a long-term relationship a few months prior, and he was starting to feel lonely. So he opened up Grindr like he had 100 times before, and that's when he saw the profile. The photos were perfect, almost too perfect. Blonde hair, blue eyes, absolutely ripped. The kind of guy you see on magazine covers, not on dating apps. The profile said his name was Connor. He was 26 and he was looking for casual hangouts. His bio was simple. Just moved to Portland, let's grab drinks. Now Marcus should have been suspicious right then. When something looks too good to be true, it usually is. But loneliness is a powerful thing. It makes you do stupid stuff, Marcus messaged him. Hey, how's it going? Connor responded almost immediately. Hey man, how are you doing? You look cute in your pictures. They chatted for about an hour. Connor seemed charming, funny, easy to talk to. He asked Marcus questions about his life, his job, where he liked to hang out. Everything seemed normal except for one weird thing. Connor never wanted to video chat. He said his phone was broken or his camera wasn't working. Different excuse each time Marcus asked. But again, loneliness won out. After about 2 weeks of messaging back and forth, Connor suggested they meet up. He said there was this new bar downtown that he wanted to check out, and he wanted Marcus to go with him. Marcus agreed. He was excited, honestly, even though something in the back of his mind was nagging at him, telling him something wasn't right. The night they were supposed to meet, Marcus got ready. He put on nice clothes, cologne, the whole thing. He drove downtown around 8 o'clock and waited outside the bar they'd agreed on. He texted Connor, I'm here. For 5 minutes, nothing. Then 10 minutes. Then 20. Marcus kept looking at his phone, watching those 3 dots appear and disappear as Connor was typing something. Finally, Connor's message came through. Hey, I'm so sorry. Something came up. Can I give you my address instead? I'd really love to see you, but I'm not feeling great. Can you come by my place? Red flag, major red flag. Every single alarm in Marcus's head was going off. But he was already downtown, already had invested time in this, and honestly, part of him was curious about what was really going on. Marcus typed back, Sure, just send me your address. Connor sent him an address in a rougher part of town. Marcus plugged it into his GPS and drove over. The neighborhood was dark, quiet. The streets were empty. The address led him to an old apartment building, 4 stories. Looked like it hadn't been renovated in decades. Broken windows, graffiti on the walls, the whole thing screaming danger. Marcus parked his car on the street and sat there for a minute, hands gripping the steering wheel. This was insane. He knew that. Every rational part of his brain was screaming at him to leave. But curiosity is just as powerful as loneliness sometimes. He got out of the car and walked into the building. The hallway smelled like old carpet and cigarette smoke. There were no lights on. He had to use his phone's flashlight to see where he was going. Connor's apartment was on the 2nd floor, apartment 203. Marcus climbed the stairs, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. When he got to the door, he stood there for a moment, taking deep breaths. Then he knocked. Nothing. He knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. Marcus tried the doorknob. It was unlocked. He pushed the door open slowly. The apartment was pitch black. The smell inside was off. Not like rotten food or anything, just stale and wrong. Marcus stepped inside, keeping the door open behind him so he could see the hallway light. "Connor?" he called out. "Hello?" The moment he stepped further inside, he heard something. A sound. Movement from somewhere deeper in the apartment. And then footsteps, but they weren't coming from inside the apartment. They were coming from the hallway behind him. Marcus spun around and saw a figure in the hallway. Tall, wearing dark clothes. The person's face was obscured by shadows, but Marcus could see enough to know this wasn't Connor. This was a completely different person. "Hey," the figure said, his voice low and rough. "What are you doing?" Marcus's survival instinct kicked in immediately. He pushed past the figure and ran down the stairs 2 at a time. His heart was absolutely pounding. He could hear footsteps behind him getting closer. He bolted out of the building and sprinted to his car, fumbling with his keys, his hands shaking so badly he could barely get the key in the ignition. He got the car started and peeled out onto the street, tires squealing. In his rearview mirror, he could see the figure standing on the sidewalk, watching him drive away. Marcus drove straight home, locked every door and window, and didn't sleep that night. He went back and looked at Connor's profile the next morning. It was gone. Completely deleted. He reported it to Grindr, but by then it was too late. The scariest part? Marcus never found out if Connor was even a real person, or if the whole thing was a setup. A robbery? Something worse? He never knew, and that's what haunts him the most. Story 2. The apartment with no exit. This next story happened to a guy named Daniel, and it's one of the most twisted things I've heard come out of a dating app experience. Daniel was 24, lived in Chicago, worked as a graphic designer. He wasn't really the type to use Grindr, but one of his friends kept bugging him about it, saying he needed to get out more, meet people, live a little. So finally, one Friday night, Daniel downloaded the app and created a profile. Within an hour, he had matches. Lots of them. It was actually kind of addicting, to be honest with him. Seeing all these people interested in talking to him, it boosted his confidence. One guy in particular caught his attention. His name was Derek, and he seemed genuinely nice. They talked for a few days, had real conversations about life, work, interests. It didn't feel like a hookup situation, which Daniel appreciated. He was actually looking for a connection, not just a quick thing. After about a week of chatting, Derek asked if Daniel wanted to come over to his apartment and watch a movie. "No pressure," he said. "Just 2 guys hanging out." Daniel agreed. It seemed harmless enough. The day they were supposed to meet, Derek texted Daniel his address and told him to come by around 7 o'clock. Daniel got ready, drove over to the address, which was in a decent part of the city. The building was actually pretty nice. A modern high-rise, looked like the kind of place you'd want to live. Daniel went up to the apartment. When Derek answered the door, he looked exactly like his pictures. That was the first good sign. He seemed genuinely happy to see Daniel. He invited him in, offered him a drink, and they settled on the couch to watch a movie. For the first couple of hours, everything was normal. They were watching some action movie, drinking beer, just hanging out. Derek was charming, funny, great conversation. Daniel was actually having a really good time. But around 9 o'clock, Daniel decided he should probably head home. It was getting late and he had to work the next morning. So he told Derek, "Hey, I should probably get going." Derek nodded and said, "Yeah, no problem. But before you go, I want to show you my new art collection. It's in the bedroom. Just real quick, I promise." Okay, that was a little weird. But Derek had been nothing but a perfect gentleman all night, so Daniel figured why not. They walked to the bedroom and Derek turned on the light. The walls were covered in paintings. And I mean covered. Not just art either, they were all portraits. And they were all of men, tons of men. Different ages, different ethnicities, but the paintings all had this same eerie quality to them. Their eyes seem to follow you around the room. Wow, Daniel said, trying to be polite even though he was getting an increasingly uncomfortable feeling in his stomach. These are something. They're all people I've known, Derek said quietly. People I've invited over. Daniel's skin started to crawl. He turned toward the door. Hey, I think I should really head out now. Derek was standing in the doorway. He wasn't blocking it exactly, but he was positioned so that Daniel would have to get past him to leave. Don't you want to see more? Derek asked. No, I'm good, Daniel said, his voice steadier than he felt. I really have to get home. Derek stared at him for a long moment. Then he smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Slowly, he moved to the side. Okay, see you around. Daniel walked past him, trying not to run. He got to the living room and headed for the front door. But when he tried to turn the doorknob, it didn't move. The door was locked, but not like a normal lock. It had a keypad, the kind you need a code to get out of. Daniel's heart started pounding. He looked at Derek, who was still standing in the bedroom doorway, just watching him. Derek, unlock the door, Daniel said, trying to keep his voice calm. I told you, Derek said slowly, stepping into the living room. They all want to stay. Daniel panicked. He ran to the window and tried to open it, but it was sealed shut. The apartment was on the 20th floor anyway. He couldn't jump. Behind him, he heard Derek's footsteps getting closer. Daniel grabbed a lamp and threw it at him, then bolted for the bedroom. He slammed the door and locked it from inside. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely think straight. He looked around frantically for another way out. There was a window in the bedroom. He ran to it and looked down, 20 stories down to the street below. People walking like tiny ants. Too far. He could hear Derek at the bedroom door trying the knob, then knocking. Come on, Daniel. Don't make this difficult. I was really starting to like you. That's when Daniel noticed something. There was another door in the bedroom. He hadn't seen it at first because it was the same color as the wall. He tried the knob. It was unlocked. It opened into what looked like a hallway he hadn't seen before. It was dark, almost pitch black. Every instinct told him not to go in there, but staying in the bedroom with Derek wasn't an option either. Daniel made a split-second decision and went through the door. The hallway was strange. It went on longer than it should have, given the layout of the apartment he'd seen from outside. The walls were bare, no windows, nothing. Just hallway. And at the end of it, Daniel could see light coming from under a door. He ran toward it, his footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind him, he could hear Derek coming through the bedroom door, chasing after him. Daniel reached the door at the end of the hallway and threw it open. It led to an emergency stairwell. He flew down those stairs, taking them 3 at a time, not even looking at the floor numbers. He just kept going down, 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 until he burst through the door at the ground level and into the lobby of the building. He ran out onto the street and didn't stop running until he was several blocks away. He called the police from his phone, but by the time they went to check Derek's apartment, it was empty. Completely empty. Like no one had ever lived there. Daniel checked the news obsessively for weeks, looking for any reports about Derek or missing people. He found nothing. To this day, he still doesn't know if Derek was actually a person or if what he experienced was real. But the scariest part? The police told him they found something when they searched the building records. Derek's apartment didn't actually exist on the 20th floor. The building's layout didn't have a 20th floor apartment in that location. Story 3. The location that moved. Our next story is about a guy we'll call James, and this one's gonna mess with your head a little bit. James lived in Atlanta and worked as a salesman. He was 26, outgoing, the kind of guy who liked to meet new people. He'd been on Grindr on and off for a while, nothing serious, just casual dating. He was actually pretty experienced with the whole thing, or at least he thought he was. One day, James got a message from a guy who called himself Tyler. Tyler's pictures were hot, and I mean really hot. But James had learned to be cautious about super attractive profiles, so he didn't get too excited. They started messaging, and Tyler was charming as hell. They had a lot in common. Tyler said he was a personal trainer, liked the same music as James, wanted to grab drinks sometime. They texted back and forth for about a week, and James was genuinely into this guy. Tyler felt different from the other guys he'd met on the app. There was something special about him. Tyler suggested they meet at a bar in Midtown. James knew the place. It was a popular gay bar he'd been to before. He agreed, and they set a time for Saturday night at 9 o'clock. Saturday came, and James got ready. He put on his best clothes, drove to the bar, and waited outside. Tyler texted, "I'm here, where are you?" James replied, "I'm outside." "Where are you?" "I'm inside by the back near the dance floor," Tyler texted. James went inside and made his way to the back near the dance floor. But he didn't see anyone who looked like Tyler. He texted him, "I don't see you. What do you look like again?" "I'm wearing a red shirt," Tyler replied. "I'm standing by the bar." James looked at the bar. There were several guys in red shirts. He walked over to one of them, a guy who kind of looked like Tyler's pictures. "Tyler?" he asked. The guy looked at him confused. No. "I'm Dave," James apologized and kept looking. This went on for about 20 minutes. James would see Tyler's messages saying he was in different locations in the bar. But every time James went to those locations, there was no one there. Or there was someone, but they weren't Tyler. Finally, James texted, "Look, I'm here at the bar, but I can't find you. Can you take a selfie and send it to me so I know who I'm looking for?" He waited for a response. It took a few minutes, but then his phone buzzed. Tyler had sent him a picture. It was a selfie taken in what looked like the bar. He was wearing a red shirt. But here's the thing. James had been standing right where that picture was taken, and there was no one there. James felt a chill run down his spine. He got out of the bar immediately and drove home. When he got there, he looked at Tyler's profile on Grindr. The picture Tyler had just sent him, the selfie he said was taken in the bar. It wasn't on his profile. But underneath, Tyler had sent him another message. "Why did you leave?" "I was right there," James didn't respond. He blocked Tyler and tried to forget about the whole thing. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Over the next week, James kept getting messages from different accounts. Different names, different pictures, but the same guy underneath somehow. Each one would say something like, "Why did you block me?" Or, "I just want to meet you." James blocked each account as they appeared, but more kept coming. Then one day, James did something stupid. He replied to one of the messages. "Who are you? What do you want?" The response came back immediately. "I'm Tyler. I was at the bar that night. I was standing right next to you the whole time. Don't you remember me?" That wasn't possible. James remembered every moment of that night. He'd been hyper-aware of his surroundings because he was looking for Tyler. "You weren't there," James typed back. The response, "Yes, I was. I've always been there, James. I'm everywhere you go. Check your photos from that night. Look at the background. I'm in them." James actually did this. He pulled up the photos he'd taken at the bar that night. And in almost every background shot, there was a figure, a guy in a red shirt. In some of the photos, the figure was blurry. In others, it was clear. And in one photo taken by James's friend, the figure was standing right behind James, staring directly at the camera. It was the same guy from Tyler's profile pictures. James completely freaked out. He deleted the photos, deleted the app, deleted his account. But every few months on different dating apps, Grindr, other platforms, he'd get messages from accounts using Tyler's pictures. Same message every time. I'm still here, James. I'm always watching. James moved cities twice after that. Changed his phone number. Even with all that, occasionally he'll get a message from a new account using Tyler's face saying the same thing. The scariest part? James's friend who took that photo at the bar? She doesn't remember taking it. But the photo is in James's phone. It exists. And in every version he's looked at, that figure is there, getting closer to James with each frame, almost like the photos were taken over time while this person was approaching him. James still doesn't know if Tyler was ever real, or if he was something else entirely. Story 4. The Collection. This story happened to a guy named Seth, and it's one that still gives me chills when I think about it. Seth was 23, lived in Denver, and he was still pretty new to the dating app scene. He wasn't super experienced with guys or relationships or any of that. He kinda knew he was gay, but he was still figuring himself out, and he thought Grindr might be a good way to explore that in a low-pressure environment. One day, he matched with a guy named Michael. Michael's profile said he was 25, was looking for something casual but genuine. His pictures showed a cute guy with dark hair and nice eyes. Michael's first message was respectful and sweet. "Hey, I think you're really attractive. Would you want to grab coffee sometime?" Seth was genuinely pleased by this. It felt like a real person reaching out, not just some creepy hookup request. They started texting, and Seth really liked Michael. Michael was smart, funny, interested in Seth's thoughts and opinions. They had great conversations. After a couple of weeks, Michael asked Seth if he wanted to come over to his place. "I'll cook dinner," Michael said. "I know this great pasta recipe, and no pressure if you don't want to. I genuinely just think you're cool and I'd like to spend time with you." Seth said yes. He was nervous but excited. He'd never gone to someone's place before from an app, but Michael seemed different. He seemed genuine. Michael sent him his address, which was a nice apartment building in a good neighborhood. Seth drove over on a Friday night. He was butterflies in his stomach, nervous the whole way there. Michael answered the door and looked exactly like his pictures, which was already a great sign. He was warm, gave Seth a hug, invited him inside. The apartment was tastefully decorated, smelled like garlic and cooking. Michael had actually been cooking. They ate dinner, drank wine, talked for hours. Michael was even better in person than he was over text. Seth was actually falling for this guy, which he hadn't expected. After dinner, Michael suggested they watch a movie. They sat on the couch together, and as the movie went on, Michael gently took Seth's hand. It was sweet and romantic, not aggressive at all. Seth felt safe. Around midnight, Michael said, "I really like you, Seth. I know we haven't known each other that long, but I feel something real with you." Seth felt the same way. This felt different from what he'd imagined dating app meetings would be like. This felt real. "I want to show you something," Michael said. "Something important to me." He got up and walked to a door that led to another room. Seth followed him. Michael opened the door and turned on the light. It was a bedroom, but not like a normal bedroom. The walls were covered in pictures. Photographs of guys, hundreds of them, pinned up all over the walls in some kind of organized system. And as Seth's eyes adjusted, he realized something horrible. Many of these photos looked like they were taken without the subjects knowing. There were screenshots of Grindr profiles, dating app conversations printed out, location tags, and in the center of the wall there was a picture of Seth, his Grindr profile photo. And under it, Michael had written something. New. Seth's blood went cold. "What is this?" he managed to ask. Michael smiled. That same smile that had seemed so warm before now looked predatory. "These are my friends," Michael said. "All the guys I've met through apps. I like to keep track of them. It helps me remember them. Remember the good times we had." "Who are these people?" Seth asked, his voice shaking. Guys like you, Michael said. Guys looking for a real connection. Guys who thought I was different. Seth didn't wait for him to say anything else. He ran for the apartment door, but Michael grabbed his arm. They struggled for a moment, but Seth managed to pull away and bolt out of the apartment. He ran down the hallway, down the stairs, out of the building to his car. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely get the car started. He drove straight to the police station and reported the whole thing. The police went to Michael's apartment with him, and they did find the pictures. Hundreds of them. But here's where it gets really weird. When the police showed Seth the pictures they found, his photo wasn't among them. They showed Seth all the pictures they confiscated, but Seth's Grindr photo was missing. And when Seth went back to look at his own Grindr account, the picture Michael had showed him, the one with "new" written under it, it was still there in Michael's private collection, but it hadn't existed on Seth's own profile. Michael claimed the pictures were all just a collection hobby, that he wasn't trying to hurt anyone. Without any evidence that he'd actually done anything illegal, the police couldn't charge him with much. He got a trespassing order, but he was never convicted of anything serious. But here's the thing that keeps Seth up at night. A week after all this happened, Seth got a new message on Grindr from an account he'd never seen before. The message was just one line. "I still have your picture." Seth checked his Grindr profile, and there it was, his photo, the one Michael had written "new" on. It was on his profile as his main picture, but Seth hadn't put it there. And when he looked at his profile settings, it showed that the photo had been uploaded from a different device, on a different date at a different time. Seth changed his password, deleted the app, and tried to move on, but he still gets notifications sometimes. Notifications from his Grindr account that he never made, photos he never uploaded, messages sent to other users on his behalf. It's like Michael was never really prosecuted, like something else was using Seth's account. And to this day, Seth doesn't know if Michael had somehow installed something on his phone, or if there's something darker happening, something that Michael started, but that Seth can't quite break free from. Story 5, The Mirror Image. Next up is a story that happened to a guy named Ryan, and it's genuinely one of the most disturbing things I've heard. Ryan was 25, lived in Los Angeles, worked in entertainment. He was good-looking, successful, and he used Grindr pretty regularly. He wasn't particularly looking for anything serious. He liked to keep things casual and fun. One day, a profile popped up that caught his attention. The pictures looked really familiar. Too familiar, because the pictures looked like him, not just similar to him. They looked exactly like him. Same hair, same face, same eyes. The profile said the name was Ryan, too. At first, Ryan thought it was a catfish. Someone had stolen his pictures and created a fake profile, so he took a screenshot and was going to report it. But before he did, Ryan, too, sent him a message. "Hey," it said, "I know this is weird, but I wanted to reach out to you directly before you reported me. Can we talk?" Ryan was intrigued and also deeply unsettled. He replied, "Who are you? Why do you have my pictures?" "Because I am you," came the response. "Or at least I'm a version of you. I know how this sounds, but I need to meet you in person. I need to show you something." Ryan should have blocked this person immediately, but something about the message was compelling. It was so bizarre, so impossible, that Ryan was actually curious. So he asked, "What could you possibly want to show me?" "The truth," the person replied. "Meet me at the Griffith Observatory at sunset tomorrow. Come alone. I'll explain everything." Ryan knew this was probably a bad idea, but he was intrigued. He agreed to meet. The next day, as the sun was starting to set, Ryan drove up to Griffith Observatory. He parked his car and walked around looking for someone who looked like him. There were other people around, tourists, couples, families, but no one who looked like Ryan. Then he saw him. At first, Ryan thought he was looking in a mirror, This guy looked identical to him. Same face, same height, same build, same everything. He was standing by one of the observation decks looking out over the city. "You came," the person said, turning to face Ryan. "What the hell is this?" Ryan asked. "Who are you?" "My name is actually Ryan too," he said. "But not Ryan from this timeline." Ryan thought this person was insane. He was about to leave when the other Ryan grabbed his arm. "Wait, I know how this sounds, but I need you to listen to me. I came from somewhere else. Somewhere different. And in my world, I'm the one here. I'm the successful guy in LA, and you're the one I was searching for online." "You're crazy," Ryan said, trying to pull his arm away. "I'm not," the other Ryan said firmly. "Look at your shadow." Ryan looked down at the ground. His shadow was there, cast by the setting sun. And so was the other Ryan's shadow. But here's where it gets weird. The two shadows were completely different. Ryan's shadow had an odd shape, almost like something was missing from it, and the other Ryan's shadow looked perfectly normal. "What did you do?" Ryan demanded. "Nothing," the other Ryan said. "This is what happened to me. I don't know how. I don't know why. But at some point I stopped casting a proper shadow. I started fading out of existence. I think I died, Ryan. I think I actually died, but I didn't go away. I just stayed. And then I found you on this app, and I realized that maybe I could become you. Maybe I could take your place." Ryan yanked his arm free and ran back to his car. He locked the doors and started the engine, peeling out of the parking lot. In his rearview mirror, he could see the other Ryan standing there, watching him drive away. Ryan drove straight home and immediately deleted the Grindr app. He changed his phone number, tried to forget the whole thing. But over the next few weeks, strange things started happening. He'd wake up and not remember going to bed. He'd find himself in places he didn't remember driving to. He'd get texts from his own number, sent to him from his own phone, with messages like, "I'm getting closer." One day, Ryan caught a glimpse of himself in a mirror, and he noticed something terrifying. His shadow was wrong. Just like the other Ryan's shadow had been normal, Ryan's shadow was becoming odd-shaped, like something was missing from it. He went to see a therapist. The therapist said it was probably just stress and anxiety, maybe even a dissociative disorder. But Ryan knew something else was happening. Then one morning, Ryan woke up and he was in his living room. He didn't remember falling asleep. On his coffee table was a piece of paper with a message written on it. "I'm almost there. Soon I'll be you completely, and you can be what I was." Ryan looked in the mirror that morning and barely recognized himself. His features were becoming less distinct, like he was slowly being erased. He called the police, showed them everything, but what could they prove? A person looking like him? That could be anyone. Weird dreams? That doesn't prove a crime. Ryan decided to take matters into his own hands. He drove back to Griffith Observatory at sunset, exactly 1 week after the first meeting. He waited for the other Ryan to show up. Sure enough, as the sun touched the horizon, the other Ryan appeared. He looked more solid than before, more real, and when Ryan looked at him, he saw something horrifying. The other Ryan was starting to look less like him and more like what Ryan must have looked like. "It's happening faster than I thought," the other Ryan said. "I can feel it. I'm becoming real." "I'm becoming you, why?" Ryan asked. "Why are you doing this?" "Because," the other Ryan said, stepping closer, "I don't want to fade away. I want to exist. I want to be alive again. And you were perfect. You were exactly what I needed." Ryan looked down. His shadow was barely visible now. He was fading. Then something happened. Ryan can't quite explain it, but in that moment he felt a shift, like something clicked into place. And suddenly he understood. He wasn't being replaced. He was being erased because he was the copy. He was the one who wasn't real. The other Ryan was the original, and Ryan was just a glitch A mistake that the universe was correcting. Ryan ran. He ran down from the observatory to his car and he drove. He drove for hours, not knowing where he was going, just driving. Eventually, he found himself in Nevada, miles away from LA. He checked into a motel and looked in the mirror. He could see through his own hand. He was fading completely now. The next morning, Ryan drove to a police station in Nevada and reported himself as missing. He told them his name was Ryan and that he'd been in a car accident and he didn't remember anything else. When they called LA to verify his identity, there was no record of a Ryan with that description living there. But here's the weird part. When they checked, they found that a guy named Ryan had moved into his old apartment in LA just days before. Same age, same job, same everything. But it wasn't him. Ryan's been living under a different name in Nevada ever since. Because he's learned something horrifying. He doesn't exist anymore. Not really. And if he tries to go back and prove who he is, prove that he's the real Ryan, the person living his life now will just disappear and reappear somewhere else, trying the same thing to someone else. And sometimes, late at night, Ryan sees his reflection in windows. But it's always slightly different. Always changing. Like something's still trying to become him. Like the process was never actually finished. Story 6. The Final Destination. This next story is about a guy named Chris, and what happened to him is absolutely bone-chilling. Chris was 27, lived in Seattle, and he was kind of a loner. He didn't have a huge friend group, spent most of his time working as a software engineer or staying home alone. Grindr was one of the few ways he interacted with people outside of work. He wasn't looking for anything serious. He just wanted to feel connected to someone, even if it was just temporary. He matched with a guy named Alex one afternoon. Alex seemed nice enough. Good pictures, interesting bio. Said he was looking for genuine connections. They started messaging, and Chris really enjoyed talking to him. Alex was thoughtful, asked good questions, seemed genuinely interested in Chris's life. After about a week, Alex asked Chris if he wanted to hang out. Nothing crazy, Alex said. Just dinner at my place. I'll cook something nice, and if you want to take things further, great. If not, that's cool too. I just think we'd have fun together, Chris agreed. He was actually excited about this. Alex seemed different from the other guys he'd met. More mature, more genuine, Alex sent Chris his address. It was an upscale apartment in a nice part of Seattle. Chris drove over on a Saturday evening around 7 o'clock. The building looked really nice from the outside. When Chris went upstairs and knocked on the door, Alex answered almost immediately. He was exactly like his pictures, even better in person. He gave Chris a warm hug and invited him inside. The apartment was beautiful. Tasteful decorations, modern furniture, and it smelled incredible, like something delicious was cooking. "Welcome," Alex said with a genuine smile. "I'm so glad you're here." They spent the evening together. Alex cooked a beautiful dinner, they talked, they laughed. As the night went on, they moved to the couch and started kissing. One thing led to another, and they ended up in bed together. Everything about it felt right. Chris actually felt like he was connecting with someone in a real way, not just a physical way. When they were finished, they lay in bed together. Alex was holding him, and Chris felt genuinely happy. He hadn't felt this way in years. "Chris," Alex said softly, running his fingers through Chris's hair, "I need to tell you something." "What?" Chris asked, looking up at him. "I need to tell you about this place," Alex said, "about what this apartment really is." Chris felt a slight unease creep in, but he pushed it aside. "What do you mean?" "This apartment," Alex said, "is special. I've been living here for a long time, and I've had a lot of visitors. A lot of guys from apps like Grindr. And the thing is, none of them ever really leave." Chris's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "I'm not trying to hurt you. Alex said calmly. I just need you to understand. You can't leave. Not really. This apartment, it doesn't work that way. Once you're inside, once you've been with me, you become part of it. Part of this place. Chris tried to sit up, but Alex held him down gently. It's okay, Alex whispered. It doesn't hurt. You'll just stay here, with me, forever. Chris pulled away and got out of bed. He was panicking now. That's insane. I'm leaving. He grabbed his clothes and started getting dressed. Alex didn't stop him. He just lay there in bed watching Chris with sad eyes. Chris ran to the front door and tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. He pulled harder. Nothing. He looked at the doorknob. There was a keypad lock. The code is 7734, Alex called from the bedroom. But it won't work. Chris tried the code anyway. Nothing happened. I'm calling the police, Chris said, pulling out his phone. But there was no signal. He checked again and again. No signal. No Wi-Fi available. It was like the outside world was completely cut off. Alex appeared in the living room, still naked, completely calm. You can call if you want. No one will answer. No one can hear you from in here. That's not possible, Chris said, backing away from Alex. A lot of things aren't possible, Alex said, taking a step toward him. But they happen anyway. Come here, Chris, stop fighting. It's easier if you don't fight. Chris bolted for the windows. He tried to open them, but they wouldn't move. He could see outside. The city was visible through the glass, but when he looked at the street below, he realized something was wrong. The view kept changing. One moment it was the street he'd driven in on. The next moment it was a completely different street. Then it was nighttime, even though it had been evening. Then it was daytime again. The view kept shifting and changing like it wasn't real. The apartment doesn't have a fixed location, Alex explained behind him. It exists, but it's not really part of your world. It's caught between places, between realities, and now that you're here, you're caught between places too. Chris turned around in a panic. Why? Why would you do this? Because I'm lonely, Alex said simply. And I've been lonely for so long. I can't leave this place, and I can't have anyone real stay here with me. They'd go mad. They'd resist. They'd try to escape. But you'll get used to it eventually. Everyone does. I won't, Chris said firmly. I'll find a way out. Alex smiled sadly. That's what they all say. Chris spent the next several hours trying everything he could think of to escape. He tried the windows, the doors, he looked for any other exits, nothing. The apartment was sealed, and the more he looked around, the more he noticed things that didn't make sense. Windows that looked out onto different places every time he looked at them. Doors that led to other rooms, but when he went through them, he'd end up back where he started. A kitchen with food that never seemed to get smaller, no matter how much was eaten. Eventually, Chris realized something horrifying. He tried to leave the apartment one more time, and this time, when he looked in the hallway, he saw someone. It was a guy. He looked exactly like Chris had looked when he first arrived. Same clothes, same expression of panic and confusion. Who are you? Chris asked. The guy didn't respond. He just turned and walked down the hallway, disappearing around a corner. Chris followed him, but when he turned the corner, there was no hallway. Just a wall. Chris went back to the living room. Alex was cooking dinner like nothing had happened. How many people are here? Chris asked. Everyone I've ever invited, Alex said without turning around. They're all here, somewhere in the apartment. You just can't always see them. The apartment is big enough for all of them. It expands as needed. This is impossible, Chris said. Yes, Alex agreed. But so are you, technically. You're not really here either, not in the conventional sense. You're here with me in this place, and that's all that matters. Over the next few days, or what Chris thought was a few days, though time felt strange in the apartment, Chris started to see other people. Glimpses of them. A guy in the hallway who would disappear when Chris got close. A shadow in the bedroom that didn't match anyone's body. Sounds of other people in other parts of the apartment. But whenever Chris tried to find them, he'd end up somewhere completely different. He tried to keep track of the days by marking the wall, but the marks would disappear. He tried to remember his life outside the apartment, but it was getting harder. It was like the outside world was fading from his memory, being replaced by memories of being here. After what might have been a month or a year, or just days, Chris couldn't tell anymore, he found a door he'd never seen before. It was in the bedroom and it was slightly ajar. Through the crack, Chris could see what looked like another apartment. Furniture, lights, everything. Chris opened the door all the way and stepped through. It was another apartment, almost identical to the one he'd been in. And sitting on the couch was a guy who looked terrified. "Where am I?" the guy asked frantically. That's when Chris realized the truth. The apartment didn't trap people. It duplicated them. Every person who came here became part of a series of identical apartments, each one containing another version of the place, each one containing another terrified guy, each one containing another Alex somewhere. Chris tried to go back through the door, but it led to a different apartment now, a different version of the place. He went through another door and found another apartment and another and another. He was walking through a maze of duplicate apartments, each one slightly different, each one containing fragments of a life he didn't remember living. Eventually, Chris found his way back to what he thought was the original apartment. Alex was there, but this time Alex looked different. He looked older, sadder, like he'd been waiting for a very long time. "Do you understand now?" Alex asked. Chris didn't respond. He was starting to forget what understanding even meant. "You're home now," Alex said. "You can stop fighting. Everyone eventually does." And here's the thing that makes this story so terrifying. A few weeks after Chris should have escaped that apartment, his Grindr account became active again. He started matching with guys and inviting them to his address. Except the address wasn't his real address. It was an apartment that nobody could quite find. Guys would enter looking for Chris and they'd never come out. Chris's account is still active to this day. Still inviting guys over. Still using his pictures. Still using his name. And if you look at the profile, you can see the apartment keeps changing locations. One day it says it's in Seattle. The next day it's in Portland. Then San Francisco. Then back to Seattle. Nobody knows if Chris is still trapped in there, if Alex is still using his account, or if Chris has become the next Alex, the next person keeping the others trapped while slowly forgetting who he was. But Chris's family reports that sometimes they see his location on their phone's Find My Friends app, and it keeps jumping from place to place. He never responds to their messages, and his profile picture changes occasionally. Sometimes it looks like Chris, sometimes it looks like someone else entirely, and sometimes it looks like someone they don't recognize at all. Story 7, The Loop. Our final story is about a guy named Lucas, and it's the perfect way to end this because it's ongoing. Right now, you might even be part of it. Lucas was 24, lived in Houston, Texas. He was just getting comfortable with his sexuality, and he'd recently started using Grindr to explore that. He wasn't experienced, didn't really know what he was doing, but he was excited to meet people who understood what he was going through. One evening, Lucas matched with a guy named David. David's profile was straightforward, good-looking, seemed nice, was looking to chat and maybe hang out sometime. They started messaging, and David was really easy to talk to. He didn't pressure Lucas, didn't ask for anything inappropriate, just seemed genuinely interested in getting to know him. After a few days, David asked Lucas if he wanted to grab coffee. Lucas was nervous but agreed. They met at a coffee shop downtown, and David was exactly like his pictures. Even nicer in person, actually. They talked for hours about everything: life, dreams, fears, sexuality. It felt like Lucas had found a friend, not just a date. At the end of the night, David said, "Hey, I really like you. Can I get your number?" "Not from the app, I mean your actual number." Lucas hesitated. He'd heard stories online about people being unsafe, but David seemed so genuine, so he gave David his number. Over the next few weeks, Lucas and David texted constantly. They hung out several more times. It was developing into something real, something that Lucas hadn't expected to find on a dating app. He was actually falling for this guy. Then one day, David asked Lucas something that caught him off guard. "Can I ask you something weird?" David texted. "Sure," Lucas replied. "What? How many times have we had this conversation?" Lucas was confused. "What do you mean? What conversation?" "This one," David wrote. "The one where I ask you to give me your number. The one where we go get coffee and talk for hours. The one where you fall for me." "How many times have we done this?" Lucas felt his stomach drop. "I don't know what you're talking about." There was a long pause. Then David called him. "Hey," David said when Lucas answered. "I know this is going to sound insane, but I need you to listen to me carefully. I think we're stuck in a loop." "What are you talking about?" Lucas asked, his voice shaking. "I matched with you on Grindr," David said slowly. "Or you matched with me. I honestly can't remember anymore. And we went through this whole thing. The coffee dates, the long conversations, the feelings developing. And then one day, you would ask me to show you something on my phone. And when you looked at it, something would happen. You'd kind of reset. And then the next day I'd match with someone new on Grindr. I thought it was just me. I thought I was going crazy. But then I started keeping track, counting the days, keeping notes. And I realized that every single person I matched with went through the exact same sequence of events, the exact same conversations, the exact same emotional connection, and then they'd reset." "This is crazy," Lucas said. "You're crazy." "I know it sounds crazy," David agreed. "But Lucas, I need you to not ask me to show you anything. I need you to not look at my phone or any weird website or anything I try to show you, because if you do, it starts over. And I can't do this again. I can't watch you fall for me and then watch you forget me and have to start all over again." Lucas hung up the phone. He thought David was losing it. But that night he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what David had said. The way he'd said it sounded so genuine, so desperate. The next day, Lucas went back through his text messages with David, and he started to notice something. They seemed to follow a pattern. The same jokes at the same times. The same compliments phrased in similar ways, as if they were following a script. Lucas texted David, "Show me proof. Show me that we're in a loop." David called him again. "Don't ask me to do that, please." "Show me," Lucas insisted. David sighed. "Okay, but once you see it, you're not going to believe it. And then everything's going to start over." David told Lucas to open his laptop and go to a specific URL. Lucas did. It was a video file. When he pressed play, he saw himself sitting in a coffee shop, talking to someone off camera. The conversation matched the conversation Lucas had with David almost word for word. Except on the video, Lucas was saying things he didn't remember saying. Specific things, emotional things. And then at the end of the video, Lucas saw David lean over and show Lucas's video self something on his phone, a video. And when Lucas looked at it, his face went blank, like all the emotion, all the consciousness just drained out of him. Then the video cut to black. Real Lucas watched this video in complete horror. His hands were shaking. He didn't remember any of that. He didn't remember that happening. He called David immediately. "What's happening? What's going on?" "It's starting over," David said quietly. "I can feel it. The loop is resetting." "No," Lucas said desperately. "No, tell me what's happening. Tell me how to stop this." "I don't know," David said. "I've tried everything." I've tried not inviting people over. I've tried not using the app. I've tried warning people. Nothing works. We just start over. Again and again and again. For how long? Lucas asked. I don't know, David said. I've lost count. Maybe years. Maybe longer. Time doesn't really work right anymore. Then Lucas heard something in the background of David's call. A notification sound. The sound of Grindr opening. No, David whispered. No, not yet. Lucas, before this happens, I need you to know the call cut off. Lucas immediately opened Grindr. David's profile was gone. Completely gone. As if it had never existed. Lucas's hands were shaking. He tried to call David's number, but it went straight to a disconnected message. Over the next few hours, Lucas felt strange. He couldn't quite remember the details of his time with David. His memories were getting fuzzy. By the next morning, he could barely remember David at all. It was like his brain was being erased. He tried to look at his text messages with David, but they were gone. His entire conversation history had been deleted from his phone. 2 days after that, Lucas opened Grindr, and he matched with a guy named David. The profile looked vaguely familiar, but Lucas couldn't quite place why. David's first message was, "Hey, how's it going? You look really cute. Want to get coffee sometime?" Lucas felt like he was about to remember something important, something terrifying, but the more he tried to remember, the less sense it made. So Lucas agreed to get coffee. They met up and David seemed really nice. They talked for hours. Lucas found himself opening up in ways he hadn't expected to. He was actually falling for this guy. At the end of the night, David gave Lucas his number, and here's where it gets really disturbing. Lucas became aware that he'd done this before, but not in his real life, in his memories of his dreams maybe, or in a life that he'd forgotten. And he realized something absolutely terrifying. This is a loop. A real actual loop, and the only way out is to warn the next person, to tell them what's happening, to try to break the cycle. But Lucas also realized that telling someone doesn't help, because telling them about the loop is what triggers the reset. So now Lucas is stuck. He knows what's happening, but he can't tell anyone without making the loop restart again. He's going to go through this with David several more times, and each time he'll remember a little bit more, and each time he'll have to decide, does he try to warn David that he might be stuck in a loop too? Or does he just go along with it and let the loop continue indefinitely? The scariest part is this. If you're reading this and you've ever used a dating app, you might be part of this loop too. You might not remember it, but you could be going through this cycle without even knowing. You could match with someone who seems perfect, have conversations that feel too familiar, and then reset without ever understanding why your memories feel incomplete. And the person you match with, they might be Lucas, or they might be David, or they might be someone who's been trapped in the loop for so long that they don't even remember their own name anymore. The loop could be happening right now, to you, to anyone, and you'd never know, because the loop makes sure you forget every single time. That's 7 stories of dating app horror that will make you think twice before meeting up with someone from Grindr or any dating app. Remember, things are rarely what they seem, and the people on the other end of that screen might not be who they claim to be. Stay safe out there.